Everyone feeling rested enough? Everyone hydrated, kind of going at a good pace, right? That section was the densest of the day, right? Because that's kind of the weirdest, most amorphous concept for us to have to like think in triangles and geometry in space while also doing swords and also having body position, right? So I intentionally loaded that up in the middle so then we can consolidate what we learned with stuff that's a little bit more freeform and maybe a little bit more familiar in concept, if not in the structure of the drills, okay? But in general, to summarize the last hour, right, we talked about having mechanical advantage or disadvantage, but how far we extend our mechanical advantage or disadvantage into binds, into positions, depends on how our body and sword align with each other and relative to our opponents or training partners' body and sword. And that is the general definition of structure of body and sword versus body and sword, whether or not they're aligned in the correct way or not. And those factors will change, or that level or quality of alignment will change depending on not only the action that we do, but also the small adjustments of whether or not we are moving our sword or holding our sword in different positions relative to our body, or if we're moving our body or holding our body in different places relative to the sword. That will change the physics and geometry of the binds. And ultimately, if you want to have a mechanically strong, structurally strong advantage against your opponent, body behind the bind. Body behind the bind. That's a mnemonic that I thought of a few weeks ago, and people love it. If there's nothing else you take away from the seminar, body behind the bind. Okay, so now we have an idea of how structure works. So now the next phase, we're going to talk about how to read our structure and read our opponents' or training partner structures to gain those kinds of advantages. So Jason, if you come over here and train. We're now going to revisit versions of some of the drills we had done before, but with a slight twist and a little bit more openness, right? So this first one is called hit or defense. It's as it is. You're going to defend against an attack, right? But now, instead of me being like, you want to be in flug and test this guard, now the challenge is for you to see the attack that is coming and counter it with the appropriate structure in a little bit more freeform way. There'll be sometimes where lengthened structure is appropriate, sometimes where it's shortened. And you can make mistakes of like, oh, I chose a shortened structured position when it should have been lengthened, or, oh, I didn't have the quite the right type of structure because I chose the correct action, but something was busted, right? So in general, what we're gonna do, we're gonna keep this at a nice even pace. I'm gonna throw attacks at Jason, and it's gonna be nice and easy, but sometimes he might win, sometimes he might lose. So if I throw an attack like this, who's winning? Why? Yeah, but more, yes, his point's at the throat, but what else? Body behind the bind, right? Okay, again. All right, there we go. Hit or defense again. Mess something up for me. be bad at something for once, right? All right, he chose the wrong action. He was long rather than short. Now, do the correct counter, but screw up the structure behind it. So if I throw, right, that failed because he chose a structured action, but if we slow that down, where's the bind? Where's his body, right? So we're gonna be more freeform. Now, we have low gear. Move at the speed of understanding. If you tag the hands or tag the mask, that's okay, but don't go like just trying to win. Try to challenge your training partner, and if they lose, it should be because of a clear mistake rather than being like, I'm gonna get you, right? So attack with grace. But we understand what the goal is here. If you make a mistake, if you're like, oh wait, I chose the wrong defense, take a second to understand, was that broken structure? Did I not have the correct body behind the bind action? Did I choose a long action instead of a short action, etc., right? That's what we're trying to process together. Sound good? All right, back to where you before, and then rotate and hit or defense.